Today on the Skid Factory, Ted Bullpit gets a new cross member, a fresh set of wheels and rubber, and a fuel system install.
You got the Ajax out, mate?
No, my wife wouldn't let me use the Ajax, so I found this in the glove box.
What's that?
It's the OG polishing thing from the 70s. Maserati brand and all. I'm pretty sure it probably should have a Proposition 65 label on it.
Look at that shine, mate.
P.S. This is not in my job description.
What's that, cleaning stuff?
Yeah.
Got some fresh rubber on the tyres, mate.
Semis on the back.
Look at that.
Very cheap on the front.
What happened to the white walls?
What white walls?
Weren't we meant to get white walls for them?
I don't know.
You can add them after, can't you?
I prefer he stayed on the road and didn't die than had white wall tyres. Is that fair?
Yeah. That comes up really nice, eh?
You can eat your porridge out of it.
Steelies.
These are our BCI wheels, fresh with some rubber on them. We tried to match up the rubber so that it was the same size, even though they're different sizes front to rear. Got semis on the back and just normal stuff on the front because it ain't going to be doing the Nürburgring anytime soon. As we mentioned last episode, BCI do modify these wheels with these attachments here to allow the old King of Cap to go on, which is pretty cool. Hint. Lion, iron. That's where it gets the name from. Woody's not actually making it up. It is called the Iron Lion. For real.
It's not as low as I thought it would be.
Not meant to be low. It'll settle in, but I don't think I want it much lower than that anyway. Still got to be able to use it.
One says 6 people in it, I'm sure we'll bring it down. Holden manufactured a few different transmission cross members over the years as they came with different engine and gearbox combinations. The modified standard cross member will cause the exhaust to sit lower than preferred, so it is now being changed to the DIY kit supplied from Tough Mounts. Al checks the angle of the gearbox and differential using an app on his phone. While it's not 100% accurate, it still confirms that the position of the gearbox is going to be okay, so he can then weld the cross member in place. Don't want to use the gloves?
What glove?
The new crossmember is in place and has given us a lot more ground clearance for the exhaust to pass under the car. Al then removes the old fuel tank so that an EFI fuel tank can then be installed. The fuel tank we are using is from a 1995 Holden Commodore. It has previously had some hose replaced which wasn't submersible and has perished away. It does require to be cleaned, but other than that, it's in great condition. Some 75mm rubber blocks are cut out and placed between the body and the fuel tank. The original straps are then bent into shape and bolted back up.
Last time I did this Commodore fuel tank, it's a VRVS, you could probably use VP, I don't know, that sort of age Commodore fuel tank. Last time I did this into a Kingswood, it was a sedan, and it didn't actually have a fuel tank because it had been converted to gas years ago, so I had no straps or anything. So when I did it, I just used Commodore straps and sort of drilled new holes and things. But this one's still got its original straps from the old tank, and it's, I mean, you couldn't get any less rocket sciencey than this. It's pretty much just position it up and rebend these straps into place into the profile of the tank and bolt it back up. I put a longer bolt on this side. That side's the original strap bolt. Couldn't really ask for more than this. It's pretty easy. And the reason why we're doing it is because this has got an in-tank fuel pump, and fitting an in-tank fuel pump into the Commodore, the Kingswood tank, is very difficult. You basically got to put surge tanks and that sort of thing in, which is just not, especially in a wagon, not practical. You're going to have fuel pumps and smelly things and lines everywhere. You can get an in-tank pump that does big power these days. This is going to have a 465 or 525 Walbro in it. I can't remember which one it was. Fits in there, works. That's all it needs. It's quiet, simple lines. We're going to have a reg up the front on this one, a GFB reg, so we can run a pressure reference to it, just in case we do forced induction later. So it's all pretty easy.
What about a filler?
That's the catch. The filler's in the wrong place. It was when I did the sedan, it was in the wrong place as well, but it was actually up inside here because it fills through the.
You're going to say they fill through the back.
Fill through behind the number plate, but the wagon doesn't do that for some reason. So it's actually probably a bit easier to do it this way. It's the only problem with the wagon is it fills from the bottom of the tank, which is a terrible idea. They're renowned for being very difficult to get fuel into. And we can't really do anything about that because there's a chassis rail in the way to go higher. So we'll just have to make it set up the same way that it was originally.
We're going to pop in to see Oldcock to get this tank modified. You can do it here.
Yeah, we'll clean it out completely and then, I don't know, find a car that runs if we can.
Challenger, bro.
Oh yeah, Challenger. Get the Challenger and purge it out with the exhaust of the Challenger. So that'll be half coolant coming out of the exhaust. So, and then cut a hole in it, put the filler. We'll make something to make the filler go in there, and I'll weld it in there, but then we'll go in and see Shane and get him to silver solder it as well, and also remove the original filler. He just heats that up and pulls it out. It's just it's a really simple solder job actually. They're not. You only got to heat them a tiny bit and it falls off, which is a bit of a problem if you don't know what you're doing. So we'll cap that, get him to seal up that, bring it back, give it a paint job, put the new pump in it, and whack it in, and then move on to the lines and hoses. Every hose has got to be replaced. they have to be replaced anyway because they're so old, but they're obviously not pressure. They're not EFI spec hose, so they've got to be done. So we'll do that as well. It amplifies the misfiring, bro.
There's no misfiring. The Challenger runs mint, bro.
Cool story.
Look at the valve stem seals.
Extra lubrication. This is our fuel pump hanger. It's a strange looking setup. As you can see, it goes in sideways. I have removed the old pump and fitted the Walbro 4, I think it says 415 on the packet, I don't know. It's one of those bigger Walbros anyway, it's got a big pump base on it.
These things were notorious for blowing up pumps, hey?
Yeah, I think they just used junk from new. I used to replace them when they weren't very old. Just Holden things. So we've also pinned out this is the original wiring. You can see it's pretty small. These pumps they suck a fair bit of juice, so I've replaced the wiring all the way through into the pins there and put a douche connector on here so we can connect up to the wiring on that's already hanging out near the cross member there. Now we just have to get some fuel safe hose. You can see the mess that I'd fished out of the tank. That is because someone's replaced something and wrecked that hose and probably got a bit of carby hose and put inside the tank, and it's just delaminated the hose completely and it's fallen apart. So inside the tank you have to use hose that is suitable for that purpose.
And wire?
Yes, and wire. Not the wire itself, but the insulation on some insulation is not capable of handling fuel immersion, so you have to be very careful about that. This stuff's like it's like, what do they call that stuff? Tefsel, that sort of wire. It's got a sort of a tinned sort of wire with a very inflexible outer on it. So just be careful if you're going to do wiring inside the tank. Just find the right wire. It's not hard. Just don't expect to shove any wire in there and it'll work. We are going to start cutting holes in the fuel tank. We basically emptied it out, degreased it, washed it out with water, filled it right up, emptied it out, and then shoved it up Woody's Challenger tailpipe and ran that for half an hour or so. That's more than adequate to get rid of any fuel and or vapours in the tank. So now we're right to cut a hole for our new filler to go in. Let's go.
The new modified filler is tack welded to the tank, and then we go see our mates down at Noosa Radiators. Shane has plenty of experience when it comes to using the oxy torch. He is using a silver solder to seal the join of the new filler, which is quick, easy and efficient. The old filler is heated up and removed and sealed using a Welsh plug and also silver soldered. Air pressure is applied to the tank and some leak detector sprayed onto the joints to check for leaks. There is a minor leak at the filler, so Shane applies a tiny bit more silver solder and then sends us on our way. All of the fuel lines are replaced throughout the car. The feed line has a Z200 inline fuel filter installed just after the exit of the pump. The fuel pump wiring is then finalised and the fuel level sender is also wired up to the stock gauge.
We need to make some brackets.
The final piece to the fuel system is our Go Fast Bits fuel pressure regulator. AN fittings are screwed into the ports and some 90-degree barbs are then used to join the 8mm fuel hose to the regulator. It's then mounted onto the firewall by a bracket and some nutserts.
That's our fuel system all completed. All we need now is some fuel in the tank. It was a relatively easy job by my standards. Reuse the original straps was all pretty easy to mount the tank itself. Modifying the filler was probably the most difficult bit. That wasn't hard either, but yeah, I've got mates that can solder things, so thanks Shane and Alcock. Got a brand new Walbro 400 and something fuel pump in there. It's a E85 safe one, big base on it. That was supplied by Golby's, so thanks to Kirsten there, really hooked us up. Replaced all the hoses in the system. It's got, obviously it was just a carbide car, so all those hoses are, they're old and worn out for a start, but they're also not pressure friendly. So there's a couple of joiners in the middle there, we replaced those. Right up through the front, I've modified the hoses up, the pipes up the front here and just shortened them because they used to come a bit further into the engine bay and didn't need to. We used a brake flaring tool to do a single flare on them just to give it some bite for the hose, for the clamps. That runs up into the rails, which we modified way back to take tapered fittings and AN fittings. We've got a GFB FXD regulator there. We'll screw a gauge into that later and set the pressure.
Why haven't you cleaned that schmutz off the gauge, off the reg yet?
Because I'm going to take it out and put a gauge in it later, so we don't need to. But I thought if I left it out, we'd probably turn the key on and cover the engine bay in fuel. So, and also because I know that it baits you hard having that white schmutz all over everything. So all new hoses up here, obviously. We talked about that submersible hose in the fuel tank. We replaced that one that was rotted away from a previous repair. That goes into the swirl pot from the return. We made a power steering hose.
We made a video on that.
Done a video on that one of these cars with an LS in it, and explains how you can make your own power steering hose with speed flow parts. Very easy to do. It saves you a heap of messing around. I did buy a hose for this car, but that pump is metric and the hose was all imperial, so it didn't have the right fitting to go into the back of the pump. So I just sent it back and made my own. It's just easier to do it that way sometimes. Next, I am going to make an exhaust for it, but that will probably be next episode. And once the exhaust is made, we will attempt to start it, because I don't want to start this engine with a loud exhaust, because I want to be able to hear whether we've left a 10mm spanner in there somewhere when it starts up. And if it's got open pipes, you're never going to hear that.
I think the key word there was attempt to start.
Attempt to start?
Yeah.
It's always an attempt.
Exactly right.
Great success. No one goes into starting a brand new engine without some fear in their bunghole.
Pucker up.
Big job. And anything can go wrong, and usually it goes wrong when you first try and start the thing up. So remain leaking for life. Anyway, we'll be getting close, and that's good. I'm starting to get stuck into it because I know that we're getting close. So hopefully we'll get it fired up.
Christmas is very soon.
It is very soon. So Scott wants it for Christmas, although he'll get it if it's ready. He's waited this long. What's the difference? It's not a Christmas present, Scott. So we'll keep working, and we'll be back with you next week. Thanks for watching. For sale, used HJ Kingswood wagon fuel tank, good condition. Used HJ Kingswood banjo diff, will last one skid guaranteed. What are you doing?
Why are you filming this?
Why shouldn't I?
I thought this was meant to be a secret.
Isn't that what people drift?
Yeah, people do drift them.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. How good are these MA61s alloys? You know that I'm a big Toyota fan.
They're amazing.
They are cool. How good is the dual mirrors? You like those? Shout out to Max with those epic flame.
I don't like them.
No.
I can't focus on them because they're too ugly.
Hmm.
What are you doing?
Well, I thought this was meant to be a secret, but now you're pointing a camera. Can I use this or not?
I don't know.
Do you want me to use it?
What are you doing with it?
I'm not going to give it away. I'm just putting some new tyres on the back.
Did you link too many corners in the hills last night?
With that open centre, sporgy
And auto.
and auto. Need a window reg. You got a window reg, anyone? Give me one. I need one. This button here is the alarm for some reason, but you press it and the alarm goes off. I don't know what the go is with it. I'll get the key, hang on.
It goes on, bro.
Yeah, you got. Well, what's the go with that?
It works.
Is it like a panic alarm or something?
How old is this thing? Like 79 or 80 or something? Sensational.
Oh, best thing about it is OG.
Gunners tape.
Can you see that? And something that I'm stoked about is
I prefer Use Your Illusion 2 if I'm going to be comparing.
Well, we can't put the radio on because it's going to demonetize us.
Silly YouTube.
Basically, it's still got the OG radio that still works.
Can't put that gunner's tape on it either.
No, we can't.
I'm not sure Axel will be pleased about us using his music.
Would that be like worth money these days or what?
I highly doubt that.
Oh, I don't know, bro. When was the last time you saw a freaking cassette tape?
What have you ever seen one?
Yeah, I'm not that young, bro. Take a guess at what mode we're putting in this. I guarantee you would not have a clue, unless you're kind of in the circle of you know what's going on.
And if you know what's going on, don't guess, you dickheads.
If you know what's going on, don't give it away. It's a very cool car. It's a very cool...
It's not a cool car.
They're sick.
It's not.
Come on, dude.
It's not a cool car yet.
It's a very cool car. It's a very cool engine we're putting into it. It's pretty... It's an oddball conversion for what this is. We're working with a really cool group of people.
Is it a 4AGE?
A really cool business.
Is it a 4AGE?
It's a 4-cylinder.
4AGE.
And I'm looking forward to the finished product because it's going to be really cool. And hopefully you guys like it.
4A
Well, you might not like it because it's not a...
FE.
I'm not going to give too much away.
7A FE.
Let me get these tyres changed. That's the ending of the show. There's an outtake for you because we didn't do one last week.
It was a double length outtake.
Thanks for watching.
Brushless power.